"You don't belong in first class, ma'am." The words landed like a slap. Cold, final, loud enough for people in 3 rows to turn. Eleanor Whitmore stood frozen, boarding pass in hand, just 2 steps from the gate. "I'm sorry," she said gently, her voice calm. But the flight attendant, Lauren Mitchell, didn't blink. "We've had too many people trying to sneak up here. Step aside before I call security." Eleanor lifted her pass. "Seat 2A, Skylight Gold Executive." Lauren scoffed, grabbed the pass, then slapped her. Gasps erupted. Phones lifted. A woman in a gray hoodie seated nearby whispered, "Did she just hit her?" Eleanor didn't flinch. She didn't touch her cheek. She didn't even look angry. She just stared. The terminal went still. Lauren's voice cut again. "Next." She waved a man in a sharp navy suit through. He hesitated, looking back, then hurried past Eleanor as if she wasn't even there. No one said a word, except the camera, now quietly recording in the hoodie girl's hands. Eleanor stepped aside, her steps slow, composed. The only sound the soft click of her modest leather shoes on tile. She passed blinking ads promising luxury in the sky and a group of murmuring flight crew who didn't dare look her way. She entered the nearby VIP lounge. Not that anyone thought she belonged there. She sat, unzipped her coat, took out her phone, logged into Air Ethica Gateway, and sent a single-line command. "Activate Black Flag Clause, Skylight Airlines, Terminal D. No calls, no threats, no press." 5 minutes later, 3 airports began shutting Skylight out of their systems. Insurance flags lit up across dashboards, and the airline had no idea yet that the quiet woman they just slapped was the only person in America with the power to pull $620 million out of the sky. Lauren Mitchell's heels clacked back toward the boarding gate, her voice sharp as ever. "Ma'am, for the last time, this is not a general seating area," she barked, waving her hand toward Eleanor like shooing away a stray. Eleanor remained silent. She held out her boarding pass again. Steady, clean, official. Her name, Eleanor Whitmore. Seat 2A. Class, first, tier, gold executive. Lauren barely glanced at it. "Oh, please," she said with a snort. "Anyone can Photoshop that these days. We're done here." Someone behind Eleanor muttered, "She literally has the same gold card I do." Another voice chimed in, "Why's she being treated like this?" But Lauren wasn't listening. She turned her back. The scanner beeped as another sharply dressed passenger walked through without issue. From her seat by the window, Jasmine Lee, a 24-year-old travel blogger in designer sneakers, lowered her coffee and reached for her phone. She'd seen the slap. She'd heard the tone. And now, this. She opened her camera and hit record. Eleanor still didn't raise her voice. She didn't ask for help. She just looked down at her pass, then looked back up. There was something in her eyes now. Not pain, not outrage. Something quieter and heavier. A woman who'd been here before. Lauren looked back over her shoulder. "If you don't walk away, I will call airport security." Eleanor blinked once, slow. "Do that," she said softly. Lauren hesitated, just long enough for doubt to creep in, then spun around, mumbling into her walkie-talkie. 2 airport officers appeared less than a minute later. One of them glanced at Eleanor, then at the boarding pass still in her hand. "Ma'am," he said carefully, "we're gonna need you to step to the side." Eleanor stood, not embarrassed, not defeated, just ready, and far more powerful than any of them could imagine. Eleanor sat in the corner of the lounge, eyes fixed on the dark screen of her phone. Not checking emails, not calling anyone, just breathing. The sting on her cheek had faded, but not the memory. She'd been here before, not at Gate D4, not on this exact day, but in this same space. Years ago, Eleanor was 38, vice president of risk analysis at a mid-size firm. She'd flown to Chicago for a high-level pitch meeting, wore her best navy suit, carried her slides, spoke with precision. And yet, when she stepped into the boardroom, one of the junior associates smiled and said, "Oh, are you here to set up the coffee?" She'd said nothing then too, just nodded and waited for the room to realize who actually built the model they were all here to hear. She learned early, people see what they expect to see, and if you're a woman past a certain age, in flats instead of heels, wearing a soft sweater instead of sharp power wear, they don't see power, they see invisibility. That mistake had cost many people their careers. Quietly, behind boardroom doors, through contracts that never got renewed. Eleanor didn't punish loudly. She corrected systemically. Her phone buzzed once. A message from a secure line lit up. Air Ethica risk, pulse, triggered. Response time. 4M 1212 says. Status, black flag in effect, Terminal D. She exhaled, slow and controlled. Back at the gate, no one knew the ground was already shifting beneath them. And yet, Eleanor didn't smile, didn't gloat. This wasn't about revenge. It was about clarity. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out an old laminated quote she always traveled with. A gift from her late husband. It read, "Let them underestimate you. Just make sure they never forget you." The VIP lounge was half empty, quiet except for the soft hum of overhead lights and the occasional cough from a businessman scrolling his emails. Eleanor sat in the farthest seat from the window, her phone resting lightly in her hand. She wasn't fidgeting. She never fidgeted. She opened a secure app, Air Ethica Gateway. The login required both fingerprint and voice ID. She gave both. The screen blinked twice, then opened. "Welcome, Ms. Whitmore. Route Ethics access. Clear." She tapped twice, scanned a barcode, typed one line. Activate black flag clause. Skylight Airlines. Terminal D. A pop-up asked, "Confirm trigger. Estimated impact. Multi-terminal disruption. 3-node exposure. Risk freeze value. 620 ml." She tapped, "Yes." Then she locked her phone, slid it into her coat, and took a sip of black tea. That was it. No dramatic music, no shouting, just one keystroke, and the system began to fold. 1,000 miles away, at Hartsfield-Jackson in Atlanta, a risk dashboard lit red. In Chicago O'Hare, compliance officers were suddenly pulled into an unplanned review. And in New York, JFK, a quiet alert flashed on a manager's screen. Terminal D linked client under ethics hold. Pause all inbound. Back at Logan, none of the crew at Gate D4 knew. Not Lauren. Not the supervisor double-checking boarding logs. Not the pilot sipping coffee behind the jet bridge. They thought they'd won. That Eleanor had disappeared. That the silence meant surrender. But Eleanor Whitmore hadn't walked away. She had simply stepped into the seat she always belonged in, the one behind the system. And now the system was listening. At exactly 11:42 a.m., the first screen blinked red at Gate D4. The flight status for Skylight 327 suddenly flipped from on time to delayed, operational hold. Lauren Mitchell furrowed her brow. She tapped the screen. Nothing changed. 3 gates down. Gate D7 lit up with the same alert. Then D10, then D12. What's going on?" one of the gate agents asked. No one answered. A supervisor jogged down the corridor, whispering into his headset. Behind him, a string of gate monitors flickered, then turned black for a full second before rebooting. In the lounge, Eleanor calmly sipped her tea. The TV on the wall, muted but running CNN, started flashing headlines from the FAA. Unexpected risk assessment. Lockdown hits Skylight operations. Insurance verification failure at 3 terminals. Flights grounded. Lauren's walkie-talkie crackled. Team D4, suspend boarding. I repeat, suspend boarding immediately. Passengers groaned. A woman with 2 kids tugged her husband's sleeve. "Didn't we just board? Are they kicking us off?" The man in 2C stood up. "Excuse me, I paid for priority boarding. This is unacceptable." No one had answers, because the answers were sitting in the lounge across the hall, wearing soft leather shoes and sipping tea like nothing had happened. An older man in a blazer stepped into the VIP area, looking shaken. He recognized Eleanor from a conference years ago. "Ms. Whitmore, are you?" She looked up and simply nodded. He didn't say another word. He just turned around and walked right back out. Lauren paced by the gate, sweat beading along her temple. She didn't know why everything was shutting down, but she did know one thing. The woman she slapped wasn't no regular passenger, and this wasn't over. It was just beginning. At Gate D4, everything was unraveling. Boarding was suspended. Flight 327 delayed. Crew members whispering into headsets. Monitors cycling through error codes no one could explain. Lauren stood frozen, watching the screens blink like warning lights. Her fingers trembled slightly, though she pretended to scroll through her tablet. Across the hall, inside the VIP lounge, Eleanor hadn't moved. She sat with quiet posture, calm eyes, and the kind of stillness that didn't come from fear. It came from authority. A junior airport manager named Hassan Malik, barely 30 and 2 months into his job, was the first to make the connection. He'd seen the name Eleanor Whitmore once, buried deep in a compliance training slide about Air Ethica Gateway. Something about final clearance rights. Something about black flag clauses no one ever really thought got used. He pulled up the internal database, typed her name. What came back made his stomach flip. Root Ethics Authority, active access level, global override status, live, code, black flag. He nearly dropped his tablet. He ran. Within minutes, 2 senior executives from airport operations were standing at the entrance of the lounge. They didn't barge in. They didn't raise their voices. They approached like people entering a courtroom. "Miss Whitmore?" one asked softly. Eleanor turned toward them. "Yes. We didn't realize you..." "You didn't ask," she replied, her voice calm, like a teacher correcting a student. Silence. "We're coordinating with your office now," the other one stammered. "We'll issue a full incident report, and the crew involved..." Eleanor raised a hand. "No need for promises. The system's already responding." She stood slowly, one step, then another, and suddenly it was very clear to everyone in the room. This woman didn't need to raise her voice, because when she moved, entire terminals followed. Jasmine Lee had seen a lot in her years of travel. Delays, lost luggage, even a pilot storming off once. But she'd never seen a first-class passenger get slapped and then cause a terminal shutdown without saying a word. She was still sitting in the corner near Gate D4, phone in hand, video saved. It was all there. The slap, the silence, the quiet walk to the lounge. And now, the chaos unfolding outside the windows. She opened TikTok, hesitated for 1 second, then uploaded it. Caption: elderly woman slapped at gate. Terminal D just shut down. Who is she? Hashtags. #black flag. Skylight Airlines. She didn't yell, she didn't expect much. But within 15 minutes, it had over 22,000 views. Within an hour, CNN picked it up. By the time Jasmine's flight was canceled outright, her phone was blowing up. "This lady is the calmest destroyer I've ever seen. Find out who she is. She's got first class and final say, icon. Please tell me someone knows her name." Someone did. A former Skylight employee commented, "That's Eleanor Whitmore. She wrote the ethics protocol we were all forced to train on. I thought she was just a name. Didn't know she was real." The video hit 500,000 views in 3 hours. Reporters started tagging at Skylight Airlines, demanding answers. Travel bloggers posted side-by-sides of Eleanor's pass and the CEO's public statement. Why is the woman who signs our insurance being manhandled by her own clients? In the lounge, Eleanor's phone buzzed. She glanced at it. A message from her assistant. "You're trending. #Black Flag. Want us to issue a press statement?" Eleanor shook her head. "No," she said aloud, to no one in particular. "Let them talk." Lauren Mitchell was still pacing near the counter, unaware. Her face flushed, her tone brittle. "I swear, it was just some random woman." She had no idea millions of people had just watched her lose her career, not because she raised her voice, not because she broke protocol, but because she slapped the wrong passenger. And that passenger was the system. Lauren Mitchell didn't know she was being recorded when she called Eleanor another seat thief. She didn't know her walkie-talkie mic was still hot when she muttered, "She should be grateful I didn't call security sooner." But the internet knew. Within hours, clips from passengers all around Gate D4 began surfacing. One video caught her brushing off a young black couple trying to board with a baby, saying, "You people always want special treatment." Another showed her waving a $100 bill from a frequent flyer and moving them ahead in line. Her pattern wasn't just an accident, it was a habit. And now, that habit was going viral. Skylight's internal chat system lit up. Flight attendants shared stories in whispers. "Lauren's always been like this. Remember the time she downgraded that disabled vet just to seat a regular? Someone needs to check her bonus logs. She takes cash." By noon, an anonymous tip landed in a journalist's inbox. Lauren Mitchell receives unreported cash tips weekly from preferred passengers. Her supervisor covers for her. It's in the logs. And so, the story widened. Michael Weaver, Terminal D's floor manager, had signed off Lauren's schedule for years. He was the one who told security to just remove the old woman and stop making a scene. His name showed up in a dozen internal audits, flagged for informal override of boarding protocols. He thought he was invisible. Now his name was trending too. A tweet read, "Michael Weaver covered up ethics violations for a woman who slapped our national insurance gatekeeper. Fire him now." And then came the final layer. Captain Brian Alder, the pilot of Flight 327. He was caught on internal comms saying, "Delay the boarding all you want. Just don't let her back on. I don't want drama in my cabin." By the time the FAA Ethics Compliance Board received a formal notice from Air Ethica's system, the trio of names was already circulating in a congressional staff thread. Lauren, Michael, Brian. They didn't just mishandle a passenger. They tried to silence someone the entire aviation system was built on. And now, the silence was over. At 1:08 p.m., the first formal shutdown notice went out. New York JFK issued a Level 2 advisory. Skylight Airlines operations flagged as non-compliant. Inbound flights placed under review, except at discretion. By 1:12 p.m., Chicago O'Hare followed. Then, Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson, the busiest airport in the U.S., sealed the deal. All Skylight flights temporarily denied gate access pending ethics validation. No press release, no loud announcement. Just locked terminals, blocked gates, and planes told to circle or reroute. Inside Skylight Airlines' Chicago headquarters, panic bloomed like a fire on dry grass. The risk and compliance dashboard flashed non-stop. Red warnings crawled across screens. Insurance clearance failed. Ethics status, black flagged. Air Ethica rating, non-compliant. Access suspended. The CFO, jaw clenched, turned to the CEO. 3 airports just froze $620 million worth of operational coverage. We can't even fuel outgoing planes without that insurance. Someone else whispered, "She did this. That woman at the gate. She is Air Ethica." HR tried to reach out to Eleanor. Too late. Her office had already sent a formal compliance breach report to the FAA and federal regulators. The consequences were no longer just viral PR. They were regulatory, contractual, and existential. Investors started calling. Bank partners flagged accounts for review. A hedge fund manager texted bluntly, "If Skylight is off-grid at 3 majors, it's a dead airline walking. We're pulling our positions." By mid-afternoon, Skylight's stock dropped 11%. On TV, anchors tried to explain what was happening. "The airline's fate is now in the hands of a woman they tried to remove from her seat," one analyst said, shaking his head. "They didn't know she built the very system that gives them permission to operate." At Gate D4, the crowd had mostly cleared. The flight canceled. Passengers rerouted. But the echo of what happened hadn't gone anywhere. Lauren had been escorted away. Michael hadn't been seen in over an hour, and Captain Alder's flight clearance was under immediate review. Meanwhile, in the lounge, Eleanor received one final alert. Passenger Equity Risk Index, FAA accepted. Now, live. She closed her phone. No smile, no triumph, just resolution. And behind her, the terminals kept blinking red. At 2:37 p.m., in a quiet conference room inside FAA headquarters in Washington, D.C., 5 senior officials stared at the same flashing dashboard. Passenger Equity Risk Index, now active. The Air Ethica Gateway had triggered its final protocol. There was no turning it off. 12 years ago, the FAA had reviewed Eleanor Whitmore's proposed standard, an ethics-based compliance metric designed to score airlines not just on safety, but on how they treated their passengers. It was visionary, thorough, a bit too ambitious, they had said. They shelved it. Now, they didn't have a choice. The system had activated without needing FAA permission because Eleanor had built it to comply with insurance law first and policy second. It was legal, binding, and already being mirrored by private airports across the country. A silence fell over the room. One director finally muttered, "She did it. She made it real." Back in Boston, Eleanor sat in the terminal lounge like nothing had changed. Her hands rested on her lap. Her coat still folded neatly across her seat. But everything had changed. A breaking segment on CNN now ran under the headline, "Air Ethica triggers nationwide ethics scoring. FAA responds to Eleanor Whitmore protocol." News anchors explained what the public had only begun to realize. The woman slapped at Gate D4 controlled the infrastructure that allowed airlines to function. She wasn't just a name on a board. She was the gatekeeper of the gatekeepers. Across 3 states, airport executives scrambled to understand how this new score would affect their operations. If we dip below 82, do we lose federal clearance? Will insurance even cover flights flagged red on Air Ethica? An email from Eleanor's office had gone out to every major carrier by 3 p.m. Subject line, Passenger Equity Risk Enforcement. Immediate implementation inside Skylight Airlines. Chaos gave way to resignation. They'd underestimated the wrong woman. They thought her silence meant surrender, but it meant something else entirely. It meant preparation. By 4:00 p.m., Skylight's CEO issued a public statement, carefully worded, "We deeply regret the incident involving Ms. Eleanor Whitmore and have begun an internal review process in collaboration with federal regulators and ethics oversight partners." No apology. No mention of the slap. Just fear hidden behind formality. In response, Eleanor replied with one sentence through her legal office. "Acknowledgement without accountability is not compliance," and the internet applauded. At 8:00 a.m. the next morning, Skylight Airlines' internal HR portal posted a simple headline, "Organizational Action Statement, Terminal D Ethics Review." The message was brief, blunt, and unlike anything the company had ever issued. Effective immediately, Flight Attendant Lauren Mitchell, Gate Supervisor Michael Weaver, and Captain Brian Alder have been terminated from employment following violations of ethics and passenger equity protocols. No spin, no sugarcoating. It was the first real admission that something had gone deeply wrong. By 8:05 a.m., the press picked it up. By 8:10, CNN ran the headline, "Skylight fires entire crew after passenger ethics scandal. FAA confirms compliance breach." In a short video posted on Skylight's official account, the CEO himself, Robert Hastings, appeared. His eyes were tired. The backdrop was plain. His voice shook slightly as he spoke. "We failed. We failed to treat a passenger with the respect and fairness every traveler deserves. And in doing so, we failed the industry and our own standards. Ms. Eleanor Whitmore was not just a passenger. She is a foundational figure in aviation compliance. But this isn't about who she is, it's about what was done. That behavior is not who we are, and it will never be acceptable again." He paused, took a breath. "Effective today, Skylight Airlines will join the Air Ethica Passenger Equity Network. All staff, from executives to cabin crew, will undergo third-party ethics training and certification before returning to duty." The press flooded in. On TikTok, Twitter, and Facebook, the public response was immediate. About time. She didn't even raise her voice. And look what she made them do. This is the kind of justice we need. No shouting, no chaos, just consequences. Back at Logan Airport, an employee wheeled Lauren's suitcase quietly out of the break room. She was not there to collect it. She had already been escorted out. No press, no crowd, just silence. Michael Weaver packed up his desk with shaking hands. His name badge, once worn proudly, now sat face down in a cardboard box. He knew this wasn't just about Eleanor. It was about years of decisions, of looking the other way, of enforcing unwritten rules that gave power to some and dismissed others. Captain Brian Alder released a statement through the pilots' union. "I regret my part in the incident and respect the need for accountability. I'm taking this time to reflect and re-educate myself on the standards I failed to uphold." But it wasn't just the crew. Inside the FAA, a new memo circulated. Effective immediately, all federally licensed airlines must maintain an Air Ethica passenger equity rating of 85 or above to retain full route access. Scores below 80 will trigger automatic review. Airlines across the country scrambled. What had started as one slap had become a national standard. Back in Providence, Rhode Island, Eleanor received no flowers, no calls from executives. She didn't need them. She sat by the window of her quiet brownstone, reading the final compliance report from Skylight. All 3 terminations confirmed. Training underway. Public apology issued. Air Ethica fully adopted. She set the report aside, folded her glasses, and poured herself a second cup of tea. No celebration, no satisfaction, just a quiet truth. Dignity doesn't shout, it rewrites policy. 6 months later, Boston Logan International Airport unveiled a new plaque at the entrance of Terminal D. No ribbon cutting, no music, just a quiet gathering of staff, press, and a few federal officials. The plaque was small, elegant, bronze. It read, "Whitmore Gate," in honor of Eleanor Whitmore, whose silent stand reminded us all that dignity is not a privilege, it is a right. Eleanor was there, of course. Not in a suit, not on a stage, just standing to the side in her usual oatmeal-colored sweater and low leather heels. Watching. She hadn't wanted the attention. But when the FAA, 3 major airports, and a coalition of ethics officers asked to recognize her contribution publicly, she didn't say no either. Sometimes, she had told her assistant, you accept the spotlight, not to be seen, but to help others see clearer. The impact of what had happened 6 months ago still rippled through the industry. Air Ethica Gateway was now fully integrated at 21 federal airports. The Passenger Equity Risk Index had become a standard metric, updated quarterly, published publicly, and tied directly to federal routing approvals. Flight attendants were no longer just trained on safety and customer service, but on implicit bias, ethics, and equity. Airlines now understood. Power wasn't just about planes in the sky. It was about who you served and how. Lauren Mitchell, the former flight attendant, had moved home to care for her elderly mother. No one had heard from her since. Michael Weaver had taken a job outside of aviation, and Captain Brian Alder, quietly, had started mentoring young pilots with a new lecture series titled The Weight of Silence. None of them contacted Eleanor. She didn't expect them to. But she'd read an article someone had sent her, a quote from Michael in an ethics workshop. The systems I enforced for years were broken. I never saw the cracks until she showed them to the world. That was enough. Back in Providence, Eleanor's life didn't change much. She still took long walks in the mornings, still drank strong tea with too much lemon, still wore the same coat that had survived the slap. But when she walked through airports now, sometimes someone would nod, or meet her eyes a little longer, or quietly say, "Thank you." And that was enough too. One afternoon, her assistant asked her, half jokingly, "What made you stay so calm that day?" Eleanor smiled softly. "Because I wasn't just sitting in a seat," she said. "I was sitting in a system I helped build, and I knew it would stand up for me, even if no one else did." She paused, then added, more to herself than to anyone else, "Let them underestimate you. Just make sure they never forget what happened when they did." And with that, she closed her book, rose from the bench, and walked, not fast, not slow, just forward. Have you ever seen someone get humiliated in public just because they didn't look important? Eleanor didn't raise her voice. She didn't threaten. She just made one quiet call, and the system answered for her. If it were you, would you stay silent or fight back the Eleanor way? Tell us where you're watching from. And have you ever met someone like Eleanor in real life? We read every comment. And who knows, your story might just inspire the next episode.